think we've now converged to a point where we're ready as an ecosystem to go full on and build a proper blockchain government system. And if we do that and get it right, I think we'll actually be the strongest cryptocurrency in the world from that perspective. So I thought a lot about how do we get Cardano to 1 billion users? How do we get the ecosystem to become the world financial operating system? Instead of that, it's just good old-fashioned hardcore protocol design, where you do the science, you do the engineering, you build great protocols, and you get those protocols into market. Other parts of that is, well, what is the consumer interface? What is the portal upon which 1 billion people will do stuff? Whether they're playing with NFTs, they're issuing assets, they're doing DeFi things, they're playing video games. There's identity components, estate planning components, managing billions of dollars, security tokens, all this type of stuff. So about last year, we said, let's start a research project to imagine what a portal, an interface to all of those use cases would look like to go above and beyond what a normal cryptocurrency wallet does. So an identity-first wallet with full node security, but it's light enough to be on a phone. And it was a very ambitious project. We put some of our best people together. We took a lot of great new technologies like Mithril and Atala Prism, and a lot of legacy stuff that we invented in the Cardano ecosystem, and we pulled it all together. And now Lace as a product is starting to come out into market. It's one of our first commercial B2C products, and so it's not a reference client. It's not like Daedalus, which is a neutral playground, but rather this is IO's view of how crypto ought to be done. And our hope is that it's going to kind of push along the standards for our entire ecosystem. It's a browser-based interface. It'll eventually come to your cell phone and to the desktop, and every step of the way, it's innovating as much as it can. So we're real excited to kind of demo it, build a beta movement around it with some pioneers, and hopefully we'll be able to translate that into a very successful ecosystem that can bring in everybody, not just the crypto enthusiasts, but the entire space. It's also going to be cross-chain. So it's not just Cardano. It'll support Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of other ecosystems, and showcase what we've created as an ecosystem to the rest of the cryptocurrency space. And because we designed Cardano the right way and we had a lot of foresight, we were able to come up with something that's much lighter weight than what Mina is doing or Cello's doing. So we don't need Plumo, we don't need super sophisticated snarks. We were able to, with just threshold cryptography, to create these beautiful certificates that stake pool operators can construct, and their existence allows people to verify state and transactions as if they had a full node, while they could be doing that on a light client. This is absolutely essential for scalability. It's absolutely essential also for usability, because at the end of the rainbow, the vast majority of people are going to be using their cell phones, laptops, browser clients, these types of things. They use crypto. And if they don't have the ability to do this, they have to trust a third party. So effectively, you've centralized something that should be decentralized. Hopefully, it'll become an open standard that wallets can integrate. Light wallet side for security and full node side for parallel validation of epochs. So you have much faster bootstrap for full nodes. Well, our shit is always the best stuff. And so, while I can do some stuff for other ecosystems, I can't do it all. So with proof of work ecosystems, we have a concept called NIPA-POWs, non-interactive proofs of proof of work, that Dionysius Zindros invented while working with us. And it's been turned into concepts like Fly Client. And there's even ideas about how to get it into Bitcoin without a hard fork. It's called the Velvet fork. So certainly some people are exploring that technology. There's also proofs of proof of stake that Dionysius came up with that Ethereum could potentially use. So as we go multi-coin, the idea of embedding proofs and proof structures into the wallet to maintain a consistent trust model is very important. But you innovate where you innovate, and so Mithril is really built hand in glove for Cardano and its sidechain ecosystem. It was never built to port over to these other ecosystems. And actually, I'd like to extend that to any Cardano native asset. And there's been a lot of discussion of, can we take the Jormungandr chain, retire it, not have it as a sidechain, but rather have it as a Mithril Hydra application. So combine those two things together and actually use the upcoming Hydra Tail protocol to basically do vote batching. And then allow voting modules to be plugged in for different governance systems and so forth. DREPs are kind of a different concept of delegated democracy, so liquid feedback. And the basic idea there is that we have 5 types of governance events that could occur. You have a protocol parameter update, you have a movement of treasury funds, that's an MIR movement, you have a hard fork event, and then you also have kind of some meta events, like if we had a constitution, you'd have to have some ability to amend and change that constitution. So Voltaire cannot be implemented unilaterally. You can't go like Moses from the mountaintop, come down with 10 commandments and say, God has said this. This is really a system for the people, by the people, and it really does need that validation. So everything from a constitution for Cardano would need to be validated by the Ada holders to a governance system. And it needs to have enough flexibility that people can come and go. And if people aren't producing value to the ecosystem, they can be fired. And if people are, that merit is recognized and they get elevated in that respect. I think we've now converged to a point where we're ready as an ecosystem to go full on and build a proper blockchain governance system. And if we do that and get it right, I think we'll actually be the strongest cryptocurrency in the world from that perspective. I think the community, in consultation with expert groups together, are going to have to figure that out. And I think that should be done by an on-chain democratic process instead of a council of elders who decide from above. IOG, what we've always done is said, look, our goal is to get to stability. It's not necessarily fairness. It's not necessarily the most optimal. It's a relative maxima that we can live with to allow the system to be stable. And then I don't think small stake pool operators are fully aware that some of the things that you'd like to solve with the augmentations of K potentially could be resolved by implementation of technology like Conclave for federated pools, so you can batch together and get rid of the multi-pool operators instead of just have networks of federated pools, and also partial delegation. So those two innovations alone, I think, actually solve a lot of the variance problems that we have, and it will mean that the pie gets split up a little bit more and revenue improves. But the other thing is that you have to understand that it's not a static system. And when you look at input endorsers, for example, the way we're designing it, it probably will result in a system that could tolerate tens of thousands of stake pool operators, and there's real parallel benefit to having them in the system, which means the entire reward model has to be rethought a little bit to accommodate that. The other thing is the reward model likely will have to be reevaluated from the perspective of having delegative democracy on chain, because you probably want to compensate the D-reps in that respect. And also, you're going to have more revenue streams as a stake pool operator with the existence of side chains. If somebody launches a side chain, the way we want to build them, the tokenomics of those chains are the rewards that are paid. They're paid to ADA holders. So instead of just getting an ADA return, you also get the network of sidechains that are there. It's not, I mean, if it was my decision what for them to do, I'd do things differently. But the point of checks and balances and separations of powers is it's not my decision. I don't have that role, and it's not my job to tell the Cardano Foundation what to do or what not to do. It's my job just to say, what does the ecosystem need, in my view, as an independent participant like you are. And every day on your show, you tell people what you think, and every day I tell people what to think on my MA, but our voices are equal in that respect. So I would like for the foundation, for example, to be very involved in funding community events. I would like for the foundation, for example, to be very involved in funding standards research. I'd like for them to be very involved in lobbying for pro-crypto legislation. I'd like for them to be very involved in intervening where there's clear criminality or agency failures in the ecosystem that harm every single ADA holder. It's a little harder to justify saying, well, why don't we make them a software company? And because then they're picking winners and losers and they're creating canonical technology outside of the concept of creating a technical fellows program and specifications in these things. Like, for example, we do need wallet certifications, and they would be a natural body to be a standards body for that. So then Lace can get certified, and Flint can get certified, and other wallets like Nami and Eternal and so forth could get certified. And that's just better for everybody in that respect. But it's not my place or role to tell them that. We don't have a board seat. We're not probably going to get one. There's no mechanism for us to get elected to one. The community has no voice or say in the governance of the Cardano Foundation. This is not criticism. These are just facts of structure. And we can either complain about it or we can accept it as it is and say, well, what value can they produce given the structure and form that they have? And what other organizations do we need to construct to augment and enhance the existing incumbents that we have? So I try to stay in my lane in that respect. And I worry a lot these days about sustainability, technology, legacy. And I worry a lot these days about making foundational elements are present in our technology so that we can harness the power of the community. I have failed if IO is necessary for Cardano to work. I don't believe it is at this juncture, and for a long time it hasn't been. We just add value. And so every day I wake up and I say, are the things we do making the ecosystem more decentralized or less? Every day I wake up, are the things we do growing leaders and giving them the power they need to do things or less? Because there's been multiple scandals there throughout its life cycle, and had it relied upon them, we'd already be dead. I think the greatest sign of decentralization was the whole Michael Parsons affair and so forth, because what it did is it showed that Cardano didn't need its foundation any more so than Bitcoin needed its foundation. You have to think about these things in a positive, constructive way instead of a destructive way. A destructive way is saying, well, if they're not here, would we all die? A constructive way is saying their presence makes it more valuable. It makes the system better. It gives you new capabilities and new relationships. What they do best, I think, is acting as an objective, neutral party that has the ability to go talk to other blockchain ecosystems, regulators, exchanges, banks, have them go and talk to Fortune 500 companies, have them go and talk to standards bodies, these types of things, and represent as a voice some objectivity and credibility about what Cardano is and what Cardano isn't. There are plenty of people, despite the fact that I'm the founder of Cardano and I've done a lot for this ecosystem, that aren't very happy with me having a lot of influence and would rather other people have that. And they've been very vocal on Twitter and Reddit and other places about it. And in some cases, they've left the ecosystem because they think that I'm a bad actor. And that's a good thing, because at the end of the rainbow, even though I'm the founder, I didn't win an election. I don't hold a democratic mandate. I need to get out of the way in that respect. And that's the point of the age of Voltaire, is to ensure that we have checks and balances and good governance structures, and everybody who's at the table is there because either the community decided explicitly for them to be there, or that they serve an objective, neutral role where they're enhancing value. Now, that said, officials at all of our organizations could run for office, and probably should. And what that would do is give them political mandates to go and pursue things where they have the power to actually make decisions that have positive and negative consequences on particular ventures inside our ecosystem. Just like the President of the United States, just like a senator, just like a congressman has a voice and power, and the exercising of that voice on power on behalf of others picks winners and losers in that respect.